I stepped out of Ethan's car with that soft, tired smile I always gave him after a long day, the kind that said, "We're fine," even when life felt messy. I didn't realize my hand was empty, not yet, because I was too focused on replaying the quick kiss he gave me before speeding off. Inside the house, the silence wrapped around me like a blanket, calm and familiar. I tossed my bag on the couch and reached for my phone out of habit, only to grab air. That's when my stomach dipped. I stood there for a second, blinking at nothing, feeling a tiny knot tighten in my chest. I hurried to my laptop, that small pulse of anxiety already tapping against my ribs. My fingers fumbled as I opened the tracking app, praying the phone was just stuck somewhere on the floor of his car. The screen lit up my face with that cold blue glow that never feels gentle. And then I saw it, the location dot moving steadily across the map. I leaned closer, brows narrowing, every breath suddenly deeper and heavier. It wasn't heading toward Ethan's apartment. It wasn't heading anywhere familiar. Something inside me whispered that I already knew what I was about to see. When the map finished loading, my throat tightened so sharply it hurt. The dot wasn't drifting by chance. It was moving with purpose, straight toward a place I knew far too well, my sister Chloe's house. I felt my knees threaten to give, like the floor was shifting under me. My heart thudded in that terrible, uneven rhythm that happens right before your world starts to tilt. I whispered her name without meaning to, barely hearing my own voice. And in that moment, before any proof, before any words spoken out loud, my body already understood something my mind refused to accept. I grabbed my phone to call Ethan, but even dialing felt strange, like my hands weren't fully connected to my body. When he picked up, his voice sounded calm. Too calm, and that alone sent another crack down my spine. I asked if he could check whether my phone was in his car, keeping my voice steady even though my pulse was sprinting. He insisted he was already on the highway heading home. The lie slid out of him so smoothly it almost sounded rehearsed. My eyes narrowed as I stared at the glowing dot on my screen. I wasn't imagining anything. He wasn't where he claimed to be. I told him the tracker showed he was at Chloe's place, letting the words fall as gently as I could, even though inside me everything was shaking. He stammered through some excuse about dropping something off, like I hadn't been his fiancé for 5 years, like I couldn't hear the wobble in his voice. 10 at night. Who drops things off at 10 at night? My heart hammered, each beat sharper than the last. I could hear the panic behind his hesitation, a panic he couldn't hide fast enough. And then, without warning, he cut the call. The silence after the line went dead hit harder than his lie. It was a silence with edges, the kind that tells you the truth even before you're ready to face it. I stared at the screen, watching that small dot glowing from inside Chloe's house, feeling my breath turn unsteady. My sister, my fiancé, the two people who should have been the safest place in my life. A deep ache spread through my chest, but underneath it, almost hidden, was something sharper. Instinct, suspicion, and a slow rising certainty that something was about to break wide open. I sat there for a long moment, staring at my laptop as if the screen might suddenly make sense of everything for me. My fingers hovered above the keyboard, cold and stiff, while my breath kept stumbling in my chest. I felt that old childhood instinct kick in, the one where I'd hide under blankets when something scared me, hoping the dark would keep me safe. But this wasn't the kind of fear you could hide from. This was the kind that followed you, sat with you, breathed with you, the kind that told you the truth whether you asked for it or not, and I knew it was only getting louder. Images started flashing in my mind. Ethan smiling, Chloe laughing beside me at family dinners, the three of us unaware of the storm brewing in secret. My memories twisted, reshaping themselves into something I didn't recognize anymore. I pressed my palm to my forehead, trying to hold myself together, but it felt like my ribs were tightening from the inside. I whispered Ethan's name, then Chloe's, as if saying them out loud might make this less real. But the ache in my chest only grew heavier. I wasn't losing just trust. I was losing the foundation of my life as I knew it. And then something shifted inside me, a quiet spark beneath the heartbreak. My fear didn't disappear, but it made room for something else. Clarity. I closed the laptop slowly, feeling my heartbeat steady into something sharper, almost deliberate. I didn't have answers yet, but I knew I needed them. And I knew I wouldn't find them sitting in my living room, drowning in guesses. Whatever was happening, whatever I was about to uncover, it was unfolding right now. And deep down, as painful as it was to admit, I could feel that this night wasn't done with me yet. I drove to Chloe's house with my hands gripping the steering wheel harder than I meant to, my knuckles pale under the streetlights. Every turn felt heavier than the last, like the air itself was thick with something I couldn't name. My mind kept replaying Ethan's voice, that smooth lie slipping out of him as if it belonged there. By the time I parked across the street, my heart was pounding so loudly I could almost hear it echoing in the car. The house looked quiet, too quiet, the kind of silence that hides secrets instead of offering peace. I swallowed hard, feeling my chest tighten with every breath. I stared at the windows, noticing how the curtains were slightly open, just enough to tease the truth. The lights inside were dim, warm, intimate, in a way that made my stomach twist painfully. Before moving, I opened the tracking app again, hoping, begging, that somehow the location had changed. But there it was, my phone's dot glowing from inside her house like a taunt. My fingers shook around the device. I whispered to myself that I was imagining things, that maybe there was another explanation. But fear has a way of stripping away illusions, and mine were already falling apart. I stepped out of the car slowly, almost afraid the ground beneath me wouldn't hold. The cold night air hit my face and made everything feel sharper, more real. I crossed the street with small, careful steps, each one echoing louder in my mind than in the world around me. This wasn't just suspicion anymore. It was something deeper, heavier. A sense that I was seconds away from seeing something I'd never be able to unsee. And as I reached the edge of the window, my breath caught in my throat, because part of me already knew what waited on the other side. I leaned closer to the window, my heart thundering so loudly I worried it might give me away. Through that thin opening in the curtains, I saw two silhouettes moving slowly, deliberately, like a scene they'd practiced 100 times. My breath hitched, catching halfway in my chest as I tried to convince myself the shapes were just shadows. But shadows don't touch each other. Shadows don't lean in with familiarity. I felt the world tilt slightly under my feet, as if my body already understood the truth before my mind admitted it. I told myself to turn around, to walk back to the car, to protect whatever was left of my sanity. But something stronger pulled me forward. Hurt, instinct, maybe the need to see the truth with my own eyes. I pushed the curtain just a little with 2 trembling fingers, and there he was. Ethan, shirtless. His back bare and unmistakable in the soft light of the living room. My whole body went cold, as if the night air had rushed straight into my bones. I tried to blink, but my eyes refused to move, locked on the scene unfolding inches away from me. Then Chloe stepped into view, wrapped around him in a way that shattered something deep inside me. She tilted her face up, smiling the smile she used to give me when we were kids, and Ethan kissed her. Full, unhurried, familiar, like they'd been doing this long before I arrived. I slapped my hand over my mouth, a broken sound escaping before I could stop it. My legs trembled so violently I had to brace myself against the wall. In that moment, something inside me didn't just crack, it collapsed. But even as the hurt screamed through me, something sharper rose quietly from underneath. I backed away from the window slowly, my breath shaking so hard it barely made it past my lips. The night around me felt distorted, like the air had thickened, like sound itself had gone underwater. My vision blurred for a moment, not with tears, oddly enough, but with disbelief so heavy it made the world look unfamiliar. I kept replaying their kiss in my mind, every second of it sharper than the last. It felt like someone had carved a hollow space inside my chest and left it echoing. I pressed my hand against my heart, trying to calm the chaos thundering there. For a moment, I thought I might collapse right there on the sidewalk, the weight of what I'd seen pulling every part of me downward. But then something unexpected happened. My breath steadied. My heartbeat slowed. The shaking didn't stop, but it shifted, becoming less about fear and more about focus. Pain has a strange way of sharpening the mind. It slices through innocence, through naivety, through every lie you once believed. Standing in front of my sister's house, I felt a kind of clarity that was almost terrifying in its steadiness. I wasn't confused anymore. I wasn't imagining anything. I knew exactly what had been stolen from me. And in the middle of all that grief, something inside me clicked. Quiet, cold, deliberate. I wasn't going to scream or storm inside or beg for explanations they'd twist into more lies. That's what they expected. That's what people expect from the betrayed. Chaos, tears, shattered pieces. But I felt none of that. What rose in me instead was a new kind of strength, a calm built from the ruins. I whispered to myself, barely audible, I know exactly how I'm going to expose you. And with that, I turned away from the window, already thinking 3 steps ahead of the pain that pushed me into the night. The next morning, I woke up with that heavy tightness in my chest, the kind that reminds you your life changed overnight, even if the room looks exactly the same. For a moment, I just stared at the ceiling, letting the memories of last night settle like dust around me. The hurt was still there, humming quietly under my skin, but it wasn't controlling me anymore. What filled its space was purpose, sharp, steady, unapologetic. I grabbed my phone, now safely in my possession, and crafted my first message with hands that didn't shake once. A family dinner, an announcement, a stage. When I hit send, a strange calm washed over me, almost like I'd stepped outside of myself. Then I messaged Ethan, carefully, sweetly, like slipping poison into honey. A romantic dinner, something special to tell him. I watched the typing dots pop up instantly, just as I knew they would. His reply came dripping with affection, full of the same lies he'd kissed my sister with hours earlier. I love you, he wrote. I felt nothing, not anger, not longing. Just a cold, satisfied understanding of who he really was, and who he had never been to me. Later that afternoon, I drove to Chloe's house, my heartbeat steady like a drum keeping time for a performance I had already choreographed. When she opened the door, her face flushed with guilt so quickly it almost made me laugh. She looked at me like I was a ghost she thought she'd buried. I forced a smile so gentle it made her swallow hard. I asked why she hadn't answered my calls. She lied, of course. They always lie before they break. And as I stepped inside and spotted my phone sitting on her coffee table like a trophy of betrayal, I felt that icy stillness settle deeper into my bones. The moment my eyes locked on my phone sitting on Chloe's coffee table, something inside me settled into place, like the final piece of a puzzle I never wanted to solve. I walked toward it slowly, deliberately, letting her watch every step. Her breath hitched, and I could almost feel the panic radiating off her. I picked the phone up without asking, without even looking at her, the silence stretching between us like a rope tightening around her throat. My fingers closed around it gently, almost tenderly, because this wasn't just a device. It was proof. Proof she never expected me to retrieve with such calm. Chloe's voice cracked as she rushed out a shaky, "Wait, I can explain." But I didn't give her the dignity of turning around immediately. I let her words hang in the air while I examined the screen, pretending to check if anything was damaged. What was damaged was standing right behind me, trembling in her own doorway. When I finally faced her, I stepped closer, close enough that she had to look at me. Really look at me. I told her she'd explain one day, but not today. My voice didn't rise. It didn't shake. It cut, clean and quiet, like a blade that didn't need force to go deep. Her face drained so fast it was almost mesmerizing, the way guilt hollowed her out, the way fear flickered in her eyes as she realized I wasn't behaving like the sister she once knew. I wasn't crying, I wasn't screaming, I wasn't begging for answers, and that terrified her more than any confrontation would have. I stepped back toward the door with the confidence of someone reclaiming far more than a phone. And as I left her standing there, clutching her own lies like they were slipping through her fingers, I felt a strange rush of satisfaction. The stage was set, and neither of them had any idea how loudly the truth was about to speak. As I stepped outside, the sunlight hit my face, but it didn't warm me. It simply illuminated the version de mime que estava nascendo, uma mulher que não correria atrás de explicações que nunca valeriam nada. I walked down Chloe's driveway with my phone in hand and a growing stillness in my chest, the kind that comes right before a storm breaks. I could feel the weight of betrayal sitting inside me, but it wasn't crushing me anymore. It was shaping me, sharpening every thought, every intention. And with each step, I knew I was moving further away from who I'd been the night before. When I got into my car, I sat there for a moment, letting the silence wrap around me like armor. I could still picture Ethan and Chloe together, their silhouettes etched into my memory like a scar. But instead of spiraling into heartbreak, something unexpected rose in me: control. Pure, quiet, unwavering control. I wasn't powerless. I wasn't abandoned. I wasn't broken. If anything, they had handed me the truth on a silver platter, and with it, the leverage I didn't even know I needed. I started the engine with a calmness that felt almost unreal, almost dangerous. Driving away, I felt the plan taking shape in my mind, piece by piece, like a curtain lifting on a performance only I knew was coming. They thought they had time. They thought their secret was safe. They thought I'd crumble quietly, leaving them to rewrite the story however they pleased. But I wasn't giving them silence. I was giving them exposure. Cold, undeniable, unforgettable exposure. As the road stretched out before me, I knew the dinner I'd planned wouldn't just reveal the truth. It would change everything. And the best part? They had no idea what was waiting for them. The next evening, as everyone began arriving at my house, I felt that strange, steady calm return, like the eye of a hurricane pretending to be harmless. I greeted my parents with a warm smile, one they didn't question for even a second, because they trusted me. They'd always trusted me. Ethan arrived right on cue, wearing that familiar, confident grin, the one he saved for moments he thought he was adored. Chloe walked in behind them, quiet, eyes down, pretending she wasn't walking straight into her own undoing. I watched them move around my living room, unaware they were standing on a fuse I had already lit. When everyone finally settled at the table, I looked around at the faces I loved most, and then at the ones who had cut me the deepest. My heart thudded, not from fear, but from certainty. I stood up slowly, letting my chair push back just enough to pull every set of eyes toward me. My parents smiled expectantly, thinking I was about to share some milestone announcement. Ethan leaned back casually, confident I was about to praise our relationship, maybe talk about the wedding. Chloe stiffened, her body already giving away the secret she thought she could keep. The tension tasted metallic on my tongue. I cleared my throat lightly, feeling the smallest tremor rush through my fingertips. Not weakness, but anticipation. And then I told them I had discovered something life-changing. Ethan's smile faltered, just a little, like his face didn't know how to rearrange fast enough. He tried to interrupt me, but I kept speaking, my voice calm, steady, almost soft. I kept my gaze fixed on him and Chloe, watching their expressions flicker between panic and denial. The room grew painfully quiet, the kind of silence that prepares itself to shatter. And I knew that with one sentence, everything they'd built on lies was about to collapse right in front of them. I watched Ethan straighten in his chair, his confidence cracking like thin glass under pressure. He tried to speak again, but his words tangled in his throat, and that alone told me everything I needed to know. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I simply turned to my family and said the truth plainly, almost gently, as if I were telling them the weather forecast, that my fiancé and my sister had betrayed me. The words dropped into the room like a stone into still water, sending shockwaves through every face at the table. My parents gasped. Chloe froze. Ethan paled, the color draining from him faster than he could blink. My mother's hand flew to her mouth, eyes darting between us as if trying to piece together a nightmare she never imagined. My father's jaw tightened, anger simmering just beneath his confusion. Chloe's lips trembled as tears welled up, her shoulders curling inward like she wanted to disappear. And Ethan looked at me with a desperate plea in his eyes, the same eyes that had lied straight to my face the night before. He started to reach for my hand, but I stepped back, letting the distance between us speak louder than any accusation. I wasn't there to comfort him. I was there to reveal him. Then I pulled out my phone and tapped the screen, letting the location history glow brightly for everyone to see. I watched their eyes follow the trail of betrayal, step by step, right into Chloe's house. And just when the air grew too heavy to breathe, I showed them the photos I'd taken outside her window. Ethan exhaled sharply, a sound caught between regret and fear. Chloe covered her face, sobbing. The atmosphere shifted completely, thick with disbelief and humiliation. And standing there, I felt something unshakable rise inside me. Dignity, strength, truth. This wasn't chaos. This was justice, unfolding in real time. The room fell silent in that unbearable, echoing way that only truth can create. Chloe's sobs filled the space in short, broken bursts, but I didn't look at her. I was done giving her the comfort of my attention. Ethan tried to speak, tried to spin some version of the story where he wasn't the villain, but the moment he opened his mouth, I cut him off with a calmness that startled even me. I told him I wasn't there to fix anything. I was there to expose everything. My voice didn't tremble. It didn't rise. It just sliced through the lies that had lived between us for far too long. My parents stared at me with heartbreak mixed with something else. Pride. They saw the steadiness in me, the resolve, the refusal to shrink in the face of betrayal. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the engagement ring, the one that once symbolized a future I thought was mine. Without ceremony, I placed it on the table. The small metallic clink it made echoed like a final verdict. Ethan's face crumpled as he realized I wasn't bluffing, that this wasn't a fight or a misunderstanding. This was the end, served to him in front of the people he wanted most to impress. Then, I turned to Chloe, my sister, my blood, and told her she was dead to me. I watched the words hit her like a slap, watched her entire body fold into itself as if she might vanish under the weight of her own guilt. But I didn't soften. Not for her, not for him, not anymore. I stood tall, feeling the pieces of my old life falling away like ash. And as I looked around the table one last time, I felt something shift deep inside me, a quiet readiness, because the exposure was only step one. The real reckoning was still waiting on the other side of that door. After the truth detonated in my dining room, I felt something unfamiliar settle over me, a clean, razor-sharp clarity. I turned away from Ethan and Chloe and faced my parents, the only people in that room who had ever truly loved me. I told them I wanted them to see who these two really were, stripped of excuses and masks. My voice was steady, even gentle, as if I were explaining something simple instead of unraveling the life I'd built. I told them I'd be moving out the next day, stepping away from the wreckage they created. And for the first time all night, I felt completely in control. Ethan shot up from his chair, reaching for my arm with a desperation I'd never seen from him, not even in our worst arguments. His fingers wrapped around me like he still believed he had a right to touch me. He kept saying my name, begging, pleading, stumbling through broken promises he should have thought about before walking into my sister's house at 10 p.m. I pulled my arm away slowly, calmly, the way you'd move from someone you no longer recognize. He told me he made a mistake, but his voice rang hollow, like someone rehearsing a script he didn't believe in. I looked him straight in the eyes and told him the truth he'd never wanted to hear, that a mistake is forgetting a birthday or burning dinner. Sleeping with my sister is a choice, a conscious, deliberate choice. Chloe started crying harder, her shoulders shaking with each sob, as if the sound could rewrite the past. But nothing could change what I'd seen. Nothing could make them clean again. The room felt smaller, tighter, like the walls themselves were listening. And I knew the next move I made needed to hurt in a way they'd never forget. I reached into my bag and pulled out the folder I'd prepared earlier, the one that felt heavier than paper because of everything it represented. The moment I handed it to Ethan, his face drained, as if he already sensed the destruction waiting inside. He opened it with trembling fingers, flipping through the printed messages he'd sent Chloe, messages full of desire and secrets and betrayal written in his own words. My parents leaned closer, horrified, their eyes widening as the truth became undeniable. The silence in the room was suffocating, but for the first time, it wasn't choking me. It was choking them. As Ethan kept reading, his breath hitched, his shoulders collapsing under the weight of his own actions. Chloe watched from across the table, her hands covering her mouth as if she could stop time, as if that would save her. I didn't offer them mercy. I didn't offer them comfort. I stood there with my chin lifted and my heart steady, unmoved by the chaos unraveling in front of me. Then Ethan reached the wedding venue cancellation, the printed confirmation I'd requested earlier that morning. His eyes flicked up to mine, pleading for forgiveness he no longer deserved. In the back of the folder was the final blow, a simple note written in my clean, controlled handwriting. "You can marry your trash." Ethan flinched when he read it, the words hitting him with the exact precision I intended. Chloe let out a broken sound, somewhere between a sob and a gasp, her guilt spilling out of her like a confession she could no longer swallow. And there I stood, feeling strangely light, like shedding their betrayal had also freed something inside me. But even then, I knew I wasn't done. My story with them was ending, but mine with myself was just beginning. When I finally turned toward the door, something inside me shifted, like a lock clicking open after years of being jammed. Ethan called my name again, his voice cracking under the weight of everything he had destroyed. Chloe's sobs grew louder, desperate, almost childlike, as if falling apart would reverse what they'd done. But I didn't stop. I didn't look back. My footsteps felt steady, almost rhythmic, carrying me away from the wreckage with a strength I didn't know I had. Each step felt like reclaiming a piece of myself, a piece they never deserved to touch. By the time I reached the front door, I paused, not out of doubt, but out of clarity. I realized something powerful in that moment. They could keep every lie, every excuse, every tear. None of it belonged to me anymore. I wasn't leaving as the woman they betrayed. I was leaving as the woman who exposed them, the woman who refused to collapse under their choices. I pulled the door open, feeling the cool night air brush against my skin like a quiet promise, the kind that whispers you're finally free to choose yourself again. I walked out without a single tear, without shaking, without looking over my shoulder. Behind me, the muffled chaos of their guilt spilled through the cracks of the house I once called safe. But as I stepped into the night, it felt like the world stretched open before me, wide and uncharted. My revenge wasn't about screaming or breaking things. It was the truth, raw, undeniable, unforgettable. And as I closed the door to my family's house behind me, I felt another one open inside me. A door leading somewhere new, somewhere mine, somewhere I was finally ready to walk into.